look at it. And hold on 1 minute. This is from overseas-based boxing news, sports website, Talk Sport, written by Michael Benson. What he does on Twitter is he compiles like all the news of the day and just constantly tweeting that shit all day, every day. You know, so shout out to him. But basically what this article is talking about is, okay, let me start here. I've talked about in the past before that my focus on this channel is to talk about the politics, what fights can and cannot be made, and to educate you guys, you know, on the sport. I'm going to put a link to this article down in the description box, by the way. So what this video is about is how Anthony Joshua is pretty much becoming untouchable in regards to mandatories. For example, him being the WBA Super World and WBO Super Champion, he won't have a WBA mandatory until maybe 2020. Yes, we're in 2018 right now, August the 2nd, 2018 right now. Maybe 2020, late 2019, he'll have a mandatory, which means he can fight whoever the hell he wants. In regards to the WBO, Mr. Benson here pointed out that Alexander Usyk will be the WBO Super Champion at cruiserweight. When he moves up to heavyweight, he'll be the mandatory. But yet, since Anthony Joshua is the WBO Super Champion, or will be, if not yet, already the WBO Super Champion, then he won't have a mandatory until definitely, in regards to the WBO, 2020. Now, this affects all the guys ranked by the WBO, because, I mean, maybe they'll do a WBO interim title, maybe. You know, I just did a video yesterday talking about how Brian Jennings was creeping up on the WBO title shot. So it's looking like whoever wants to get to Anthony Joshua, if Alexander Usyk moves up to heavyweight, they would have to go through Alexander Usyk. So understand what I'm saying is that Anthony Joshua's two belts, the WBA, right, and the WBO, he won't have a mandatory for quite some time. Like a year. And knowing Eddie Hearn, he can finesse it to where, for example, with the WBO is 18 months. I forgot what the WBA. I talked about this because I talked about this with Keith Thurman a few years ago when he was trying to get Floyd Mayweather. But we're going to go. This is from the WBA right here. In exceptional circumstances, the championships committee and the president may designate a champion other than an interim champion as a super champion. The president and the committee may establish the criteria for its super championship in such a designation. The committee, blah, 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 blah. What this basically is saying that pretty much whenever, you know, Gilberto Mendoza, the head of the WBA and his committee, want to make a super champion, they can make a super champion. And what I'm looking for is a super champion who loses a title or non-title bout shall have no right to be ranked thereafter in any other weight division. What I'm looking for is, I forgot how long before, I forgot how long when you're a super champion before you have to defend your title. But basically, you won't be ordered a mandatory until the WBA says so. For example, it takes like a really strong fighter to make a case, a really strong fighter in regards of popularity and in regards of their promotional and television outfit to be able to force a WBA super champion to fight a mandatory. You know, it happened with Golovkin versus Jacobs. You know, it happens with fights like that. But don't expect for the winner of Manuel Charr and Oquendo, a fight that's supposed to be happening, to be the mandatory for Anthony Joshua. Don't expect it at all. Unless somebody like Dylan Whyte or Jarrell Miller gets their hands on the belt. So which brings us to this IBF title right here that, in my opinion, it's looking like some real heavy-handed politics are being, smart politics, by the way, are being played with this. Because two Eddie Hearn fighters, Jarrell Miller and Dylan Whyte, Dylan White's not ranked by the IBF, right? He's not ranked. But anyway, Dylan Whyte was offered the to be able to fight Kubrat Pulev for that title. From my understanding, correct? Wasn't that fight on the table? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, for the IBF mandatory. And Gerald Miller just turned it down, and a career high payday in the purse bid for that IBF mandatory spot. The IBF right now is the only legitimate way to get a mandatory shot against Anthony Joshua within a year. They will strip you. They don't care who you are. I didn't believe that bullshit when the WBA gave them a 24-hour deadline, you know, to fight Alexander Povetkin. I didn't believe it. It was smoke. However, the WBO has stated a while ago that Povetkin was going to be the next mandatory. And according to this article right here, Alexander Povetkin is also the WBO mandatory at this time. So going back to what I was saying earlier in the video, he's fighting his WBO mandatory and he's fighting his WBA mandatory, so which means he won't have a mandatory for the WBO or the WBA for at least 18 months. It's crazy. We're talking about the beginning of 2020, but yet guys like Gerald Big Baby Miller wants him, and Dylan Whyte wants him, but yet they don't want to take the Kubrat Pulev fight that would get him there. So it's looking like the winner of Kubrat Pulev versus Hughie Fury would get a title shot unless it's a voluntary, and then he better not dare, meaning Anthony Joshua better not dare fight a Gerald Miller or a Dylan Whyte for a voluntary and not fight Deontay Wilder, you know? But it looks like a Pulev or a Hughie Fury can get, you know, that's the fight that's supposed to be taking place next. Is Kubrat Pulev, Hughie Fury. One of those guys can get a title shot before Whyte or Miller. It's crazy. I know it's all confusing, this political mumbo jumbo, but it's relevant information that you guys needed to know. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Please subscribe.